see me, even in this. I'm trying to be a good sport here. Last week it was revealed to the youth and their parents that I don't even know who was playing in the Super Bowl. So, not that this helps, because this is not one of those teams, but at least I know it's not one of those teams.
It's the best team.
It's the best team.
Yeah, that right there, yes.
There you go. Today's gospel, pretty tough gospel. And it's a continuation, as I've been talking about, of that Sermon on the Mount that started with the blessed are you, then Jesus went into you are the salt and light, and now Jesus is saying, okay, there's a law, people, and we've got to live by the law. John Lewis, as you know, was a representative from Georgia in the House of Representatives, and he was one of the big civil rights leaders of the 1960s, and he had this saying about getting into good trouble. Let's go create some good trouble. And I wonder if today Jesus was creating some good trouble. Because Jesus was giving everybody instructions, and he was sending them out straight. He wasn't kind of moving from one side to the other, saying, well, it's all right if you do this or that. He was just saying, no, this is the law, you need to live by it. And Jesus was saying a little bit further that in living this law, you have to live it out of your heart. Don't live it in a shallow space, but know that in your heart is where you will find freedom from this law. When we work for justice and the good, our mercy might cause discomfort, and that's what it is to get into good trouble. In today's language, we might hear no killing, no murder, no adultery, no pornography, no anger, or check your anger and make sure that you can control it, because anger is a feeling. We're allowed to feel anger, but watch what you do with it. Take care, take good care in matters of divorce. No swearing, no screaming, no road rage, no hitting, no stealing. If somebody steals from you, give them a little bit more. And if somebody asks for your service, give a little extra. These were hard laws for the ancients, but they were lived from the ancients by the Jews for a long, long time. And they were handed down each generation to the next. Today's gospel, Jesus hands them down once again to his followers. Matthew uses this story to hand them down to the followers of the way in Matthew's time, some 30 or 40 years later after Jesus' time. We hear them today because they are laws for us as well. We, like all of those who have gone before us, are people of the covenant. The promise of God always with us, loving us unconditionally. And our fortune is we are people of the new covenant as well. The promise of the resurrection in the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus. So again, Jesus says, don't take these commandments at face value, but take them in the depth of your heart. Back in the dark ages, when I was in my 20s, I was dating this guy. And we were so in love. We were having so much fun. Life was good. We sang together. We had coffee houses. We put on coffee houses. We had dinner parties. We did all different kinds of things together. And we got engaged, and we used to dream about our wedding. But every time I would sit down and talk with him, I wanted to know, well, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And he would stay on the surface. And then if I asked him a hard question, like, well, where do you sit on this side, or whatever, he would make a joke about it, or he would throw it back to me, or be like, talk to the hand. And I was getting a feeling of being pushed back, but you know, sometimes you're so in love, you don't pick that up. And then he took a job in upstate New York without saying, is that where you want to go? Can we go there together? Like, not even asking me. And then he got an apartment without even saying, do you like this? What do you think of us living here together? And then his mother and his sister and he decorated the apartment. And I'm like, okay, here I am out in right field, and he's like taking off, and I could, like, at some point I thought, this is not right. Something is wrong here. And so I got out of work one day and I drove up and I handed him the ring back and I said, something is not right between us. I can't continue with this relationship. And he knew, that we were trying to talk things out, but he was just, laughing and joking and stuff. So the two of us had a good cry, and I left and I went back to work. I caused both of us trouble. But I think it was good trouble. I mean, I know I cried for days, and I'm sure that he did too. In the next 5 years or so, I learned that he was gay. And in his defense, back then it was really hard to be gay. And sometimes a lot of people would get into a heterosexual marriage because it was easier to live in our judgmental world that didn't give gay people freedom. But still, he was hiding behind me. He was hiding in our marriage, or what would have been our marriage. And so his yes wasn't a yes. His no was a yes, if you will. Because when Jesus talks about, at one point Jesus talks about swearing, and don't be swearing. Well, that was about if you're always truthful, if your yes is a yes, and if your no is a no, you don't have to swear. And so in matters, deep, big matters like marriage, it's really important that your yes is a yes. Jesus was saying about the law that there's more to what is written on paper or tablets or whatever was written at any particular time. And he said, for example, that in marriage, and these are Luther's words, that we are to guard and protect our marriage partner against anyone who would violate them. And in addition, each of us is to honor our partner such that that person is of utmost importance in the world. And do you know what else Jesus did with the law? Jesus did a favor for women. He told men that adultery was between the outside man and the married man, different than between the outside man and the woman. And we know from John's Gospel, the woman caught in adultery, it was always the woman who was stoned, who was to blame for the adultery. But Jesus changed that this day when he said that adultery was against the other man. He put the onus on men because he knew he lived in a patriarchal society where in his day men owned women. So he said, all right, if you have power over this person, then you're to blame. And so Jesus fiddled with the law a little bit, causing people to dig deeper into what the law was about. Let your yes be yes, and your no be no. If you're not married to that person, let it be a no. If you are, then it can be a yes. But it wasn't only marriage, it was other laws too. Jesus said you can't murder, but he started with, but don't. Watch your anger, control your anger, check your heart, check your yes, where is it? Check your no, and go talk about it. Or with stealing. Like he said, if somebody takes your shirt, You give them your cloak. Well, in a court of law, that would render you naked. But Jesus is turning the law upside down a little bit so that those on the outside see this radical living, this causing of good trouble. In swearing, Jesus says, not to swear at all. In Jesus' day, people swore by all kinds of things. I swear on my life, I swear on my wife, I swear on my family, I swear on the king. Jesus said, stop it, and don't swear to God. Let your yes be yes, and your no be no, because if you speak from your heart the truth that you know, you don't have to swear. And Deuteronomy, that first reading that we heard, reminded us that there's plenty of death-dealing things in our life. But if we stick with God's covenant love, then we have chosen life. And Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, a crowd that was they were making cliques and they were having arguments among them, reminded them and reminds us that take credit for whatever's going on, but it's really not you. The credit belongs to God. Go ahead, plant whatever seeds you want. Help the plant to grow, water it, do whatever. But God's going to do the growing. So it is God, Spirit, who exists in our heart, who's going to help us to be the best people that we can be. Jesus goes on. When one steals, give them more. When one demands, surprise them with a gift. Control your anger, no killing. Marriage is deep covenantal love. Don't mess with it. Care deeply for your partner and respect another's partner. And be careful, care-filled in matters of divorce, because broken hearts hurt. And when somebody hurts you, walk away and watch your language. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. Check your heart, for it is in your heart that God's Spirit resides. And she will know your yes and your no, and will let you know. Jesus knows that good trouble needs to happen. As makers of good trouble, we are reminded by God that we are in good company, because prophets and witnesses throughout time have always gotten into good trouble.